Hi class, this is course 3, lesson 49, solving rate problems with proportions and equations. So we're going to get some rate problems and we can either solve them with a proportion or with an equation. So a little refresher here. A rate is a ratio comparing two different units, and a unit rate is a rate with a denominator of 1. All proportional relationships can be expressed with these two equations. 1, the ratio is constant. Y over x equals k. The unit rate is constant. Y equals k times x. Okay, now this isn't multiple choice. This isn't, well, if the ratio is constant, then this, and if the unit rate is constant, then this. They're the same thing. Okay, they're just written two different ways. If I multiply this by x, I get y equals kx. Okay, so don't be confused there. If you have questions and you would like me to explain this in depth a little more, please let me know. K is the rate, and it is the constant of proportionality. Remember, this was covered when we were graphing functions. And it can be thought of as the slope, because it is. Okay, so we're tying together a couple different things here today. We're going to do one example two different ways. We can use ratio boxes to help you set up your proportion. So you just have to know what to label, and we're going to just have two different rates or two different ratios, and so the book will use language like this, case 1, case 2, and we just need to label what we need. So our scenario is, if 6 books weigh 15 pounds, how much would 20 books, oh, that shouldn't say cost, that should say weigh. Yeah, that would be nearly impossible to do the problem as written. If 6 books weigh 15 pounds, so we have a rate here, it's books and pounds, except, do we want to know how many books per pound or how many pounds per book? We really want to know pounds per book. Our rate would be per one book. So we're going to put in these values, 6 and 15, and then how much would 20 books weigh? So now we have a proportion, 15 over 6 equals x over 20. And use the process of cross products being equal. Show this on your paper. Make a note there so you put that in your notes. Multiply across, 6x has to equal the product of 15 times 20. So 6x has to equal 2300. So we'll divide both sides by 6 now and get x equals 50, and that's what x equals. So answer the question, 20 books would weigh 50 pounds. Okay, that's one way to solve that problem. That's using ratio boxes. Now the other way you might be asked to do this is to write an equation that shows how to find the weight W of books, knowing the number N of books and the unit rate. Okay, so this is one of the things that you need to know here was that you must know the unit rate to write an equation. So do we have the unit rate yet? No, we know how many pounds for 6 books and we know how many pounds for 20 books, but we don't know how many pounds for one book. So we need to do the proportion 15 over 6 equals x over 1. And that's just simply dividing these two numbers. So 6 will go into 15 twice. And that would be add a 0 and a decimal. So we'd get 2.5 pounds per book. So that's our unit rate. So that unit rate, remember back here, we have a unit rate. So that unit rate gets multiplied times your input. That's what X is going to stand for, and that gives you your output. Now, we didn't get X and Y in our sample problem here, but which one is the input? Which one do you pick? Do you pick the weight and then try to figure out how many books you have, or do you pick how many books you have? It said we know the number of books. So we know the N, we know the input. So our output W is going to equal our input times our constant rate. And our value there was N. So 2.5 times the number of books will give you the weight of all those books. Okay, now let's see if that works. Let's substitute our 20 books in here. N equals 20. If we multiply that times 2.5, what do we get? 0, 10, 0, 4. You get 0, 0, 5, but remember I had a decimal up here, so I need one down here, so I get 50 pounds. And we should be able to get the same answer either way. The difference is that we have to know the unit rate to write the equation, and we don't need the unit rate if we solve using a proportion. So I know you'll be asked to write equations. Just remember that you have to write you have to know the unit rate in order to do that. Okay? Might be a little confusing. Let me know if you have questions. I'll see you in class.